Hello YouTube, Will here. Today I wanted to show you guys my winter project. This is a 1967 Williams Beat Time pinball machine. I found this guy on Facebook Marketplace in desperate need of a restoration and spent a couple weeks this winter bringing the machine back to life. Given the condition that I received the machine in, I'm quite happy with the result. In this video I'm going to talk about some things about how the machine works, show you guys the rule set and how to play the machine, some gameplay footage, and then at the end a compilation of pictures with some narration describing the restoration process. A quick note that this is the first and currently only machine that I own, and I'm absolutely an amateur at both playing and restoring these machines. Designed by Steve Kordak and with artwork by Jerry Kelly, this machine was released during the height of the Beatles' fame. There are two versions of this machine aesthetically. There's one with a blue back glass and one with a green back glass. Here's a photo for comparison. As shown here, mine is the version with the blue back glass. This machine was released without obtaining the licensing or rights to use the name of the Beatles. As such, Williams had to come up with their own band name, and they chose the Boodles. The center of the playfield also features a disc with other fake band names from that era. I still have yet to figure out who all of them are. Beat Time had a total confirmed production run of 2,802 units. Steve Kordak's playfield design for this machine is simple yet timeless. It features 6 rollover lanes, 5 pop bumpers, 1 rotating target, several scoring bumpers, 2 slingshots, 2 flippers, and 4 outlanes. As the schematic and internals show, this machine is simpler than some of the other electromechanical machines of the 60s and early 70s. That being said, it still has a very fun rule set. This internal view shows the back side of the coin door, my mess of spare parts in the front, the bottom board, and the underside of the playfield. Notable features visible here include the relay banks, score motor, large bell, and the underside of all playfield mechanisms. To remove the glass, we first begin by pulling the lever which unlocks the lockdown bar. The lockdown bar can then be pulled off, and the glass will slide out from there. Once removed, the playfield can be carefully lifted up and propped in the upward position with the prop rod located inside the cabinet. With the playfield lifted out of the way, we can now see everything located inside the cabinet, including the transformer, score motor, aforementioned relays, and all mechanisms underneath the playfield. Here are the flippers in operation. This is the bank of latching electromagnetic switches that are responsible for the 3, 6, 9, and 12 targets, as well as the tilt relay and game over relay. This bank is reset at the beginning of each ball by this large coil. Complex sequences such as the reset sequence and end of ball sequences are handled here by the score motor. The center rotating target is arguably the most important shot in the game. It displays the numbers 3, 6, 9, and 12, and rotates each time it's hit to display a new number. Shown here is the mechanism responsible for rotating the target and selecting which number to light. The pop bumpers at the top of the playfield are of the AC type and operate with latching relays and end of stroke switches. The yellow and red coils share a relay, while the blue pop bumper gets its own. Above you can see the 3 relays for the pop bumpers, and on the left the relay for the rotating target. The large bell is located in the back of the cabinet and is responsible for ringing whenever 10 points or 100 points are awarded. The slingshots are worth 1 point each and are operated by 2 switches above the playfield. The kicker in the center pushes out on the rubber band, flinging the ball away. Here you can see the coils that operate it, as well as the switch that awards points when the kicker is pulled in. In the bottom of the cabinet is the total play meter. I would assume that this has been rolled over at least once, as this machine has had a long and likely at times difficult life. Other crucial gameplay mechanisms and relays are located inside the back box. This includes the player relay, the reset relay, the 1 point, 10 point, and 100 point relays, as well as the Jones plugs responsible for connecting everything inside the cabinet to the back box. It also features 2 stepper units, including the match unit and ball count unit respectively. Shown here are the two banks of 4 score reels that allow this machine to play 2-player games. The match unit continuously steps for each 1-point target hit as well as rings the small bell. I have this feature turned off as I have the machine on free play, but it is responsible for displaying a match number and awarding credits if the number matches your score. The score reels are controlled by the 1-point, 10-point, and 100-point relays. Something to note is that some of my score reels are quite loud, and this is something I'm still working on fixing. The ball count unit is responsible for keeping track of which ball the current game is on, switching between player 1 and 2 for multiplayer games, and lighting lights on the back glass to display the current ball in play. It will step twice for each ball during 1-player games and once per ball in 2-player games. When the machine is reset, the stepper will fly back to its initial starting position and count through all balls. In this clip, I'm rapidly cycling the targets and the out-hole switch to demonstrate how the stepper will move during 2-player games. Once the stepper reaches the game over position, a new game is started and the stepper will reset to its initial position. During the course of a normal game, the back box can get quite lively. This is an extremely rudimentary breakdown of some of the more interesting mechanisms inside the game, but this is just scratching the surface of how complex these mechanisms truly are. For more information, I strongly recommend watching Technology Connections' video on electromechanical pinball machines. It's a fantastic video and is one of the things that got me interested in owning one of these. With that out of the way, let's go over the targets on the playfield and the gameplay objectives. The main objective of the game is to light the numbers 3, 6, 9, and 12. Doing so will award you points opportunities and the ability to earn extra balls or free games depending on how the machine is configured. The 4 rollover lanes at the top of the machine each light 3, 6, 9, or 12 and award 100 points. The rotating target is also worth 100 points and lights whichever number is currently displayed. Lighting 3 will change the value of the left stand-up target from 10 to 100 points, as well as change the value of the inner left out lane from 100 to 300 points. Lighting 6 will illuminate the group of red pop bumpers, and will change their value from 1 point to 10 points. Similarly, lighting 9 will illuminate the yellow group of pop bumpers and will change their value from 1 to 10 points. Lighting 12 will change the right stand-up target from 10 to 100 points, as well as illuminate the right inner out lane from 100 to 300 points. Each lit number will appear on the disc in the center of the lower playfield, as well as around the drum head on the back glass. Lighting all 4 numbers will illuminate the 2 outer rollover lanes, as well as the 2 outer out lanes for an extra ball. The left outer out lane is illuminated for a special and is configurable based on how you want the machine to play. I currently have it set to award an extra ball as opposed to a free game. Earning an extra ball will illuminate the same player shoots again when lit light at the base of the playfield, as well as the same player shoots again lights on the back glass. These are interlocked through a switch at the end of the shooter lane and will go out when the ball reaches the playfield. Shown here is the process of earning an extra ball, as well as the playfield resetting between balls to be played. Finally, before we go to the gameplay, I just want to discuss my thoughts on the machine, how it plays, and how I would compare it to other machines that I have had the opportunity to play. While the layout is really simple, and the rule set is not as deep as even other EMs that are available, I find this game extremely fun and very satisfying to play. That center target shot is really satisfying if you nail it just right. The forest of pop bumpers at the top of the playfield provide some spectacular action when they're hit just right, and the other abundance of targets around the playfield offer ample opportunities to score whether or not you're 100% in control of the ball. While this game features no DC-powered components and has older 2-inch flippers, this game still plays much faster than I expected it to, even compared to other EMs that I've had the chance to play. Strong flippers are an absolute necessity for this game, and hopefully the gameplay footage will show off how effective the rebuild kit has been in making this game play fast. The end result of all this is that this is a simple, yet timeless game of pinball. The gameplay mechanics are well-rounded, it feels good to play after giving it lots of TLC, and I'm very happy that this is my first machine. I feel that it's a good first machine as, like I said, it's very well-rounded, relatively simple to work on and understand, and is very, very fun to play. Alright, now that I've given my opinion on the machine, let's head over to the gameplay footage. I've shot 2 games, one with the room lights on and one with the room lights off. Please note that I'll also be uploading the gameplay footage as a separate video in full portrait orientation, as that's how I shot these. If you're still watching, thanks for sticking around this long, and I hope you all enjoy the footage of this machine in action. Alright, so if you've made it this far, welcome to the slideshow of all of the restoration pictures. All of these are shot in portrait mode because I was sharing these amongst friends, mostly via Snapchat, so I do apologize that there's a few, if any, photos that are in landscape. In the interest of not making the video stupidly long, I'm going to be moving kind of quick. So what you've just seen is the initial condition upon receipt of the machine and the bottom of the cabinet. So when I first got this thing, it was absolutely disgusting. It was full of a bunch of mouse poop, random parts, and just dirt and dust from being neglected over the course of many years. This thing came out of a storage unit. The initial cost for the machine was $100 plus a guitar that I traded them. The guitar cost me peanuts, so it was really not that expensive. First order of business was to get the thing cleaned up, and here you can see the original schematic and how it's been munched on. I took the bottom board out of the cabinet and just started cleaning. It was a huge mess, took me a great number of hours, and I had to sacrifice one of my dish scrubbing brushes, but after scrubbing and cleaning everything, treating it for black mold and with bleach, I had one clean cabinet. Here you can see the plumb bob for the tilt switch has failed due to zinc rot, and these next couple pictures will show the machine becoming cleaner. Another issue were the flippers and blown fuses. Right there you can see the contraption that the previous owners had stuck in there to make the machine power on, which I promptly removed and replaced with the correct fuse. Here you can see the bottom of the machine, nice and clean. Here's the bottom board before cleaning, and I systematically removed components from this board, cleaned them, cleaned underneath them, and slowly that board came back to life, looking and smelling a lot nicer. Here it is reinstalled in the machine, and you can see just how much cleaner everything is after being worked on. The playfield was similarly disgusting. It was covered in a lot of dirt, lots of mouse poop, everything that you don't want on your pinball machine's playfield. And so I began the long process of just cleaning things. This was a first pass with just a rag and some water, soapy water and such, and the improvement was pretty noticeable. Here's the super scary power cord that was on it, and so the instant that I got this thing out of my apartment and back to my house, I immediately began working on getting that fixed. These photos show the machine with its lights on for the first time. When I got it home, my immediate first order of business was unboxing the parts that had arrived, working on the on-off switch, and cleaning up the stepper units in the back box. So these pictures show that process of cleaning and reassembly. This went relatively smoothly, and everything came out working really nicely. After the steppers, I moved on to the score reels. Here's a quick comparison between before and after cleaning, and all of those went off relatively without a hitch. Here's a brief clip of me testing both the match unit and the score reels. Even after cleaning, the Player 1 score reels are quite noisy, and I'm just under the assumption that it's due to wear and tear from them being used more. The Player 2 score reels are significantly quieter. This clip here shows the machine completing its first complete cycles through a two-player game. At this point, I still couldn't figure out why it was only able to start and complete two-player games, but this was a huge step forward, as in it showed that all of the targets on the playfield were now functional except for the pop bumpers, and that the score reels were working smoothly, as well as all stepper units. With most of the main mechanics sorted out and cleaned up, it was time to start focusing on the aesthetics and the pop bumpers, so I began disassembling the playfield. This shows the amount of dirt and other crud that was on there, as well as some of the more obnoxious disassembly steps. Getting the back apron off was a real pain because of this interlock switch for the shoot again relay. As more stuff started to come off the playfield, including the pop bumpers, it became apparent how much cleaning there was to do. This is a photo of all the plastics removed from the playfield. From there, I started working on the pop bumpers. This was quite a process, as not only are there a lot of them, but there's a lot to do. I spent quite a while labeling everything and desoldering all of the necessary wires. Fortunately, this went off mostly without a hitch. In terms of replacement parts, this was actually one of the more expensive parts to work on. As these are AC-powered pop bumpers, they use an older style of yoke with a keyhole in it. I had to get those from Marco, as they were the only people that had them in stock, and they were rather expensive compared to some of the other parts that I needed. In addition to that, the skirts and bowls were quite dirty, so this required a lot of cleaning off of the machine. Eventually, after seeing how inexpensive the parts were, I ended up ordering new skirts, which I did install, and you'll see those later. Here's a look at the assemblies once removed from the machine. You can see how dirty the rings are and the electromechanical dust covering the skirts. As they came out, it started to reveal more of the playfield that needed cleaning up. here's all of the pop bumper assemblies removed. And here's a photo of those yokes. From there, it was time to start working on cleaning up the playfield. Now, based on a recommendation from a friend, I bought a jug of naphtha and quite a few other things and started working on cleaning stuff up. This took a lot of scrubbing, and even then, these photos that you're seeing are after cleaning with naphtha. This playfield was filthy. I also had to remove the old flipper mechs, and as the previous owner had busted a stud off in one of the linkages, I had to grind it out with a Dremel. I took a brief break from cleaning to assess the condition of the original legs, and they were too far gone, so I ended up ordering new ones to replace these. At this point, I had moved on to a magic eraser and naphtha to start restoring the paint, and you can see some pictures here that show that progress. This first photo shows before cleaning, this is during with the left area completed, and the whole area of the playfield done. At this point, I started moving on to other areas around the playfield, and it took a lot of scrubbing. Another cosmetic issue that needed addressing was wear around the pop bumpers, so I started purchasing some paint and preparing to deal with that. Another thing to note is that somebody along the line had repainted the black portions of the playfield rather poorly, and so part of what I tried to do was use the magic eraser to clean that up and make those lines look a little bit better. I was moderately successful in doing so. While waiting for the pop bumper parts and while I had the playfield elevated, I started working on the flippers. The right flipper coil was completely burnt up and wired backwards such that it would instantly blow fuses and short across the coil. The other coil was in no better condition, and I opted to replace both. Here you can see a comparison between the new coils and the old coils that I removed. This also included a complete flipper rebuild kit, and I got to installing that. The result was some really nicely working flippers that only needed minimal tweaking before I got a satisfactory result. Here's me testing both flippers for the first time. Everything in the assembly is all new parts with the exception of the mounting brackets and the flipper shafts, which I have replacements for on the way. These are all of the playfield plastics during and after cleaning, and I started working on repainting the playfield around the pop bumpers. This took quite a while and I was never quite able to get a satisfactory match, so once it was good enough I decided to leave it as is. It was around this time that the pop bumper parts started coming in, so I worked on re-sleeving all the coils, cleaning things up, and preparing everything for new installation. At this point I had all of the last parts that I needed to begin reassembly, so I started prepping the machine to go back together. I began by re-cleaning the playfield one last time, polishing the whole surface with Novus, and then I applied a coat of wax to the playfield to protect it. At this point the paint had really come to life, and I was very pleased with how the restoration of the paintwork had turned out. Brand new Type 47 light bulbs were installed across the playfield and in the back glass, and the machine really started coming to life. I started installing the posts with the original screw heads that I had polished, and things were looking really good. From there, it was just a matter of cleaning things and methodically installing all of the playfield components until it was time to test. Real quick, here you can see some of the incorrect post attachments that I was planning on using. Those don't actually work with this machine, but they are superior, and I was hoping to use them. I ended up deciding to stick with the original hardware in the end. As more stuff was coming together, the machine was starting to look really good, and I needed the last few pieces of the puzzle to get the thing done. Stopped off at Pinball Life to pick up the actual pinballs that I needed, the rubber rings, and a sheet of glass for the playfield, and I immediately started final assembly. Here are the pop bumper components going back in with new bases and skirts. Those were looking really good. Some of the rubber rings went onto the machine, and I installed the first of the ball guides on the upper edge of things. Continued to work on the pop bumpers, which were quite a task as I still needed to polish the rings. And from there it was just more final assembly. I ended up taking a break from the pop bumpers to do the slingshots as it was taking quite a while. Note that the flippers in that picture are not set in their final position. I had to go back and adjust that later. Here's the underside of the playfield as the pop bumper mechanism started to go back on, and finally I was able to start testing the sockets and the mechanisms of the pop bumpers themselves. Here's a video of the first test of the pop bumper mechanisms, and they were quite strong. You can actually see the exact moment that I pinched my finger in one of them, and it did not feel the best. But these pop bumpers were extremely strong, and I'm super happy with how they turned out. Finally, some more of the plastics could go on, the pop bumper covers, and it was finally time to start testing the mechanics with an actual game. From there, all of my hard work was pretty much done. I did a final assembly, took care of a couple minor tweaks here and there, and it was finally time to enjoy the machine. I'm extremely happy with the results of this project, and it turned out better than even I expected at the beginning of everything. And at the end of everything, here's a couple clips of the game shortly after completing the work on it. Some things I didn't necessarily mention in this video are the shooter rebuild, which I just recently completed, making new scorecards. I found some blue cardstock and made new ones for the front apron out of that because I thought it matched the color scheme really nicely, and just general tweaks and adjustments of things like the flippers or score reels or anything else that was giving me problems. There were a couple mechanical demons that I had to work out. For example, the scores were not rolling over correctly at first. The ones position score reel was giving me issues, but it just turned out to be a bent switch inside the 1-point relay. So things like that, and then from there it's just been an incredibly enjoyable and really reliable game since. I have enjoyed this thing so much that I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to getting another machine in the future, so we'll just have to see what pops up on Marketplace down the line. This right here is one of my favorite clips from when I had first gotten the machine working. I thought it was a decent example of some ball control and hitting the center target a couple times. Just really shows how satisfying the feedback from that target is. Some other things that I'd like to improve are reducing the volume of the score reels and working on making some reproduction targets for that center target, as like I said, it's got the wrong ones on there currently. One last thing real quick here is this is the complete cost breakdown for the entire project, so a grand total of $548.05. Not bad, and it's significantly less than I was expecting to spend to own my own pinball machine. This includes all parts orders. The only thing it doesn't show is the gas to get to and from Pinball Life to pick stuff up. But anyways, that's about it. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to give it a like if you enjoyed it. I normally do model train stuff on this channel, but if that's something that interests you, consider subscribing. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this far. Any questions, post them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And one more quick reminder that I will be uploading the raw gameplay footage from earlier as a separate video. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. Please be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.